So basically, we're in chapter 1 of Iggeres Hakodesh, and we're discussing now in the area of Eishes Chayil. I'm glad she said something. In the area of Eishes Chayil, where it says Chagra ba'oz masnaha, she girds her loins with strength, and we have to understand what this means in the spiritual sense. We know that Eishes Chayil is talking also about, or primarily about, who is the Eishes Chayil? Who is this woman? Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people. And the Alter Rebbe is explaining, what does it mean that she girds her loins with strength? It means the loins represent a part of the body, the core, that holds your body to stand up strong. It says it holds up your head. I don't know if it says that, it's a fact. It holds up your head, holds up your back, gives you the ability to walk, makes your arms strong. The core of the body is the muscle system, structure of the body. So we said, we explained last week, what's the muscle structure? The muscle structure, the core, the masnayim, those loins, that is emunah, faith. And we're going to continue what exactly that faith is right now. And then we said that the ois, we're going to have something that supports that. What's going to support? We said you have to gird your loins. It means the core of your body to have some strength. You know, people who do serious weightlifting, or people who deliver heavy packages and move things, they wear a belt around their stomach and they wear it. What does that do? It strengthens the core. It's probably also a safety not to get hurt, but it strengthens the core to give them the ability to carry heavy packages and not lose their posture and not to injure their backs, because that's what the core does. Sometimes you got to give a support to your core. In the Jewish journey, in the Jewish life, what is the core? Is emunah. What is support? As we'll see, is Torah. In Torah itself, it's Torah Shabbat Peh, it's the oral Torah. But now let's continue where we're up to. We started explaining yesterday on page Kuf Beis, or page 203, if you're in the regular Tanya. And we started explaining, what is this emunah that you feel, that you think? So we started off saying, first of all, there's the faith that you know that God is everywhere. God exists in every level, at every time, in every place, in every existence, and is the higher level of godliness called Seviv, where God operates in the level where everything in the world is equal. There's no difference, as we're going to discuss a lot of Purim. Purim is coming up in a month or 4 weeks from Friday night, from Matzah Shabbos. So we're going to talk a lot about the idea that there's a certain level, and this is really one of the themes of Purim, a certain level of Hashem's existence or truth, where all the things here are the same, left and right, yes and no, up and down is all equal. And that's the level which Hama trying to tap into, the level where the Jews don't have a superiority over enemies. He wanted to get to that level. But there's a level where truth is, that's how we achieve tshuva. We achieve tshuva by tapping into that place where sins don't matter. There's a level by Hashem where the sins don't matter. He doesn't really care what you do. If you shecht, you don't shecht, and if you do it this way or that way, there's a certain level. You get to that point, and we could discuss it another time. So there is that level called Seviv. On that level, it's above everything. Then you have a Mamali concept where all the things do matter, and Hashem modifies, so to speak, how he presents himself, just like a person when you have the power coming into your house. You have a transformer that modifies the level of power that comes into your house. In your house itself, you have a switch fuses. Some of them are 220, some are 120, some are only 110. And that tells you, and then some are even modified further by your laptop or your other electronics, that even minimizes more. What's the purpose of that? You want to modify the energy coming in to match the receiver. So it shouldn't be too much, or it should be able to function without breaking. That's the level of Mali. So we think about Hashem's presence in the world everywhere. Then this is what we're up to. Okay. We'll go back just 2 lines. We're up to the word ubereiv. We'll go back 2 lines to hine emunah zu. So hine emunah zu nikra b'shem bechinas masnayim. This faith, this emunah that a person has to think about Hashem, that is called the loins. Why is that called the loins? What causes us to make the right choices? What causes us that our seichel and our function and our behavior should be in the right way, and all the body parts represent different types of behavior. The head is a seichel, the heart's the feelings, and the arms are the right and left, Ava and Yira, or Chesed and Gvura. We have the various parts of our feet, is Netzach and Haid, that which takes us places. So what is the thing that drives everything correctly is the emunah, which that's our core, that's our loins. So he says, this faith that a Jew has, this core faith, core, it's that which supports the head, who aseichel, that's the intellect, the cognitive abilities, which could think, Good morning, the Su'elim. And it can go deeply begedulas ein seif baruchu bechinas elam shana and nefesh. And we said that it functions on the three different levels of elam shana nefesh. Sorry, I just wanted to turn off my put my phone on do not disturb, which will make sure we don't get any more disturbances. Okay. So this makes sure that we said last week that shana represents time, and elam, which we just talked about, represents place. And nefesh is the person experiencing it, the soul. Okay, here's what we're up to now. The next step of the meditation is really something very special, and this is also, to me, I don't know if it's really the same thing. To me, it's very similar to chapter 41 of Tanya, where chapter 41 of Tanya is trying to help a person. How should you focus on davening? How should you focus on doing a mitzvah properly? Whether you're lighting a Shabbos candle, putting on tefillin, how could you get there? And chapter 41 starts off that it's not enough to have the basic love that comes from yourself. You have to have the projected from above awe, which we call yira. And that awe, he explains, is to think about how great and how massive and how grand Hashem is. And Hashem says, everything I created in the higher worlds, in the lower worlds, in the development of all creation, I made for you, Mr. You individually, you one guy. And he says, you should think that everything Hashem did was for you. It sounds like it might be an ego trip, but it's not. It's a burden trip, which means that if you do this meditation properly, what you're actually saying is, this is the moment of truth. Everything that happened here, it's almost like the astronauts getting into the space shuttle. You have thousands and thousands of people that planned and calculated and built and organized, and now this is all for you. You go do your job, meaning the responsibility, it's all for you. So he says, think about this. And it's a similar idea. He says, Uberev chastai. Now that you think about how grand Hashem is, Uberev chastai, and Hashem's tremendous kindness, V'nifla'isav, and his wonders, Imanu, how he treats us, Liyais am kirove, Hashem takes us to be his close people. There are many peoples in the world. There are many nations. There are billions of people. Hashem chose the Jewish people to be am kirove, means not just a nation, but a nation that's close to him. It's like we're his family. We're like kirove, we're related. And not just that, but to bond with us. Hashem gave us the ability to become one with him. This is a phenomenal concept, that we actually can connect to Hashem himself. And this is known from the concept, and now we're going to go into a beautiful idea also. It says, it says, doing a mitzvah, doing an act of ma'asim tevim, doing a good deed in this world for a moment is worth kol chayil haba, all of the world to come. And we have to explain first the word all. What does it mean all? All does it mean like from now until the end? What's all? So you remember, in the level of olam haba, time is not a factor, it's levels. That means at all levels, we're not saying that it's higher than many levels of olam haba. Imagine this, you light a Shabbos candle, you give someone who's home alone a visit, you provide a meal for someone who's not feeling well, you whatever you might do, you bake challah for Shabbos. These mitzvahs that you do, taking off the challah in the process, these mitzvahs, one moment is worth everything more than Elam Haba. All the years a person would sit in the highest levels of Elam Haba. We know about this. The Elam Haba is tremendous. The levels of the higher realms, the Baal Shem Tov's famous letter that he writes his brother-in-law Gershon Kittimer, where he describes his journey at Rosh Hashanah in the year Tov Kuf Zayin. He describes how he went up to heaven, and he describes his journey up to the highest levels of heaven. He points out, he says, I went farther than ever went before. It was pretty amazing. I went farther, and this year in the Maimer from Tafshach Chavdala that we learned for Yud Shvat, 1964 Maimer, the Rebbe explains that the Baal Shem Tov had to make tremendous effort. It says on a regular day, the Baal Shem Tov was 2/3 in this world, 1/3 in Elam Haba. And then on Shabbos, he was 2/3 in Elam Haba, 1/3 here. And it said it took a Gan Eden. Okay, we're not going to, but we're talking Gan Eden. You're right, but it's really the level for this discussion here. It's the same. You're right. It's Gan Eden. Thank you. But for our discussion, as you'll see in a minute, it's the same thing. For this discussion, they're not the exact same thing technically. There's Gan Eden and Elam Haba, two separate ideas according to most opinions. But for this discussion, you see it's the same thing. So the Alter Rebbe writes that when I would be here, 1/3 here, it took tremendous effort. I had to pray to Hashem, and daven to Hashem, to have the ability to be in tune to people's needs. I mean, if someone comes to me that they can't have a child, people are not feeling well, I'm in a different world. I had to daven that I should be in tune to them. So we're talking about Eilam Haba and Eilam and Gan Eden, Gan Eden El, Gan Eden Tachton are tremendous high levels. Nevertheless, all of that doesn't come to one moment in the function of doing a mitzvah. I'm going to explain in a minute how that makes sense. He says, doing tshuva and doing good deeds in this world is worth more than all the Eilam Haba. Why? Because Eilam Haba, the heavenly worlds, are only the realm of Ziv. Now we have like this, it's important to know. Hashem, we say every day, L'shem Yichud Kutsha Brichu Ushchinte. We say it in the morning before Baruch Shamar, let us connect Kutsha Brichu Ushchinte. What's Shechina? When we say the word Shechina, what do we mean? So yes, the Rebbe and Basi Lagani brings many definitions to the word Shechina. But the general Hasidic interpretation of Shechina means God's presence, how it's found in this world. That's why it's called Shechin. Like the word Shechuna means neighborhood. Shachin is a neighbor. It means it can be a dwelling, right? A mishkan. Shechin means to dwell. Hashem's presence that can dwell in this world. Now imagine, to dwell in this world, it has to have a relationship to this world. You can't dwell here if you don't fit in. You have to have a way to fit in. So we're talking about a level of godliness that can come and dwell in this world. Now, that Shechina is a much lower level of the higher level of Kutsha Brichu, and that's what we say. Let us connect these two levels. It shouldn't be, Havai and Elikim. It shouldn't be the higher level and the lower level. You have to connect and make it one. But the word Shechina, by definition, means a lower level of God that comes to rest in this world. Of that Shechina, there's a light that shines off of that Shechina. So now, let's say Shechina is a minimized, lower expression of godliness. Of that Shechina, there's a shine that comes off of that, a little ray. It's like, you have the sun and a ray of the sun. You have the Shechina and the ray of the Shechina. What goes into Gan Eden or to Eilam Haba is just a ray of the Shechina. So what does Eilam Haba have? They get to experience it. It's a lot of fun. You get to have the Ziv. We always say under the glory of Hashem's wings, Let's experience. Shechina means a Ziv, Ha'ara, a light, effervescence. The other word is a little bit off, a ray, a aura of Shechina is what shines in Eilam Haba. So when you get there, what do you get to experience? Eilam Haba, just the Shechina, just the Ziv. Ziv means a ray. Now the difference is they get to see it. When we're in this world, we don't see it, but it's all here. So they get to see and experience it, but at a very low level, comparatively. Low is, that's high enough, but that's low for comparatively. What do we have? It says when a person does a mitzvah, it connects to the essence of God. Not the ray, not the Shechina, but God himself essence. So imagine doing a mitzvah, lighting a Shabbos candle, you're connecting to the essence of God in the way which is unbelievably God's oneness. And when you're in Eilam Haba, you're getting a ray off of the Shechina, which is a lower level of godliness. So that's what he's saying here. Let's see this inside. He says, Yofa, again, he wants to help the meditation. What's a person's faith? What do you think about? What's your strength? What's your core? You have faith in not only that you believe in Hashem, but what you do matters to the point that you can connect. And this is the beautiful idea. A lot of times someone says, what does what I do matter? The universe is giant. I think I mentioned a couple of times that there's this video that once someone shared me on YouTube, and it's really worth watching. It says, you think you matter, and it shows you where you are. Then it goes back how small the earth is in the universe. And then it goes further to the sun and to the nova stars and the universe and the galaxies. And then he says, and you think you're the center of the universe? And Chassidus says, yeah, you're the center of the universe. You are. All of that was prepared just for your moment. For this right now, what's the decision? Every moment, that's what it's for. So when a person realizes that guides you to make the right choices. When a person thinks to themselves, in your emunah, in your core, in your essence, I live in a world where everything is created by Hashem, and Hashem is everywhere. And He created Eilam Haba, which is a place where all the angels wait their entire life. But right now, this particular mitzvah, the effect is much greater than all what they benefit Eilam Haba. What's going to happen with me and my soul? The difference is, I don't feel it right now. The fact that you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. The fact that I don't know that 1,000,000 times 23 is 23 million, or that 10 times 10 is 100, doesn't change the fact. That's the fact. I don't know about it. You ever told somebody who says, I don't feel the stuff I'm learning in the mimer, and he doesn't understand it fully. You ever said, when you go on a train, even if you don't know how the locomotive works, you still get to your destination. You don't have to know how the locomotive works to get to your destination. You take a Tylenol, you don't have to know how it works for it to feel better, your headache. So the fact that we're accomplishing it, it's like taking a pill. But I don't know how it works. I don't feel it. Trust me, it's happening. your blood pressure is not going to be balanced, and your cholesterol is going to be lower, and your all the things that the doctor tells you. Yeah.
Are you going to see that when you
Eventually, yeah. Eventually, you're going to see what you did. It says we're going to miss this. We're going to tears of regret. We're going to miss for every opportunity that we missed. It says when Mashiach comes, or the truth, we're going to look back and every opportunity we had, whether it's to light a Shabbos candle, to put on tefillin, to smile to somebody, to make a bracha, to bench, we're going to say to ourselves, I can't believe it. That's the whole world. I missed the opportunity. It's like a tremendous, he's telling you here, that all of the world to come doesn't come to one action. Why? And he explains it here. The second word on the line. Shehu rak ziv v'ha'ara mebchinas hanikra shechina. Because all the light, all the revelations, all the goodness that takes place in Elam Haba is only a ziv, it's a ray ha'ara, and a bit of light that comes off of the Shechina. And what's the Shechina? HaSheichin Chulu, that is the Shechina, the level of godliness that comes and dwells in this world. Now, it says that Hashem created this world, the world with ka, is the Hebrew word of Yud K. I don't want to say God's name of. So I'm saying it ka, but it's Yud and Hey. And it says, because with Yud K, Hashem created the world, and Yud is what he created the Elam Haba, and with the Hey is what he created Elam Hazeh. That means Elam Hazeh, with the second half, or the first half of God's name really, is created the Elam Haba and Elam Hazeh. So let's see this here. V'nivre b'Yud, achas mish. And all of Elam Haba was created just with the Yud of God's name. Aval tshuva ma'asim tovim, but when a yid does tshuva or does good deeds, mekrivin yisrael lavin shebeshmayim mamish, we become close to Hashem Himself. Lemuhusei v'atzmusei kaviyachol, to God's essence. We're not going to God's messengers or affiliates. God Himself connects with us in a phenomenal way. The kaviyachol, as if it was, it's words that we use kaviyachol whenever we say something as if it were, because it's not like there's us and Hashem. It's all one thing. Bechinas ein soif mamish. It's the essence of Hashem's oneness that we connect with. So doing a mitzvah, yes, lighting a Shabbos candle, putting on tefillin, putting up mezuzah, making a bracha, separating challah. These are moments that cannot be overestimated in their value and importance and the experience that our soul feels. Again, it's like a lot of times you give a kid something. You give a kid a stock certificate worth $1 million. He has no appreciative value. You tell me one day he'll appreciate it. What are you talking about? It means nothing to me. You can throw it out. Fool, this paper is worth so much. No, I want the cookies. I want the Oreo cookies. I want the chocolate. They don't appreciate. The kid does not understand it, and doesn't mean it's any less valuable. Our world that we live in today, we can't appreciate. It's like that kid with a stock certificate. We don't appreciate what it means. Every mitzvah is $1 billion stock certificate. In the concept. Like it says, Hashem shines His light. We say it every time we take out the Torah. We take the light of the Hayd. Hayd is also means the ray of Hashem's light. That's what comes on Eretz Hashemayim. Eretz Hashemayim metaphors for the higher world and the lower worlds. Vayorem keren liyamai. Keren literally means glory, that He saves the glory for the Jews. But keren also means the main thing. We know when you have a loan, you have the keren, the principal, and the interest, the ribis. You have the primary and or say it would be paying a bill. When you pay a bill, you have the primary payment, and then you have the tip you can give. Keren means a primary. So the light, the offshoot, the extension that he has on Gan Eden, that has an Elam Haba, Elam Hazeh everywhere. But the concept of keren, the primary, the essence that He saved for the Jew. When you do a mitzvah, the keren, the primary, is with you. And he says something very beautiful here, like it says, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvaysa v'tzivanu cholu. We explained earlier in Tanya, I think it was page chapter 45, 46, 47, around there. I think it's chapter 46 maybe. We explained there that the concept of saying when we make a blessing, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvaysa, that He sanctified us with His mitzvahs. So literally, we say kidshanu, He sanctified us, made us holy, kadesh. But Kiddishanu also comes from another concept we find when a person gets married, they say to the bride, you are separated from me, you become one with me. We know the idea of marriages to become a husband and wife, to become one. The eventual coming one is a process, but it's becoming really one. Alter Rebbe says in Tanya he says, usually when he gives a metaphor, the metaphor doesn't always match perfectly. He says here, it's exactly just like a husband and wife become one. Hashem becomes one with the Yidden when you do a mitzvah, a Mekudesh, like a wedding, but many, many more times so. The oneness of Hashem and the Jewish people through a mitzvah, through a mitzvah, is much more oneness than a husband and wife comes together. And we know the ultimate could come together as a child. The child is a mixture. The husband and wife, they actually have one. This is, you can't say, people say, that's your mother, that's your father, but it becomes one in that creation. So Asher Kadishan Mitzvah, so we say that the power of a mitzvah, the power of a Ma'asim Tovim, is not like Olam Haba, not like Gan Eden. It's something which is absolutely much more powerful, not connecting to God's light, but to connecting to God's essence. And then Ukemayim Apanim Cholu. We have a famous expression that says, when it's just like water, Shlomo Melech says, it's also King Solomon has all the good lines. He says, like water reflects a face, so does a heart of a person reflect a heart. That's a phenomenal thing. We all experience it many, many times in our lives. But this is something, by the way, special, that the way you feel to somebody is the way they're going to feel back to you. And not always do you see it or hear from the person, the first part. Usually you see it. The person smiles to you, you smile back. The person's angry, you sort of feel disconnect. Somebody wrote to the Rebbe once, and he says to the Rebbe that I had this dispute, this issue with somebody in the community, and the person never resolved it. I give my heart, I'm past it, but I apologize, but it's never been resolved. The Rebbe said, if you work in your heart to foster a love for that person, a real feel, not just to say, I don't fight, but a real love, you will see the person on their own will come to you. Because hearts reflect hearts. We know how you feel. If you have a feeling that's something not good, it's usually mutual. Both people have this feeling. If they get past it, you can solve all the issues. But each one has this, it's like a vicious cycle. It takes one person to say, you know what? I'm past it. I'm done. I'm ready to move on. And then, but in a real way. And when you do that, it reflects on the other person. And it's a phenomenal concept. The times that we're willing to do it and go on that leap of faith, because what happens is our egos and our sense of protection doesn't allow us to, just in case that person's not going to be our friend or not going to like us, we have to have a certain part of us that says, you know what, I did them anyway, or anyway they weren't nice to me, I never liked me anyway. There has to be a little part. So what we do is we have a defensive mechanism that, but if you could open up completely, you'll see it's reflective. So it says here, when the Jew realizes how much Hashem has a love for us, we're going to automatically feel a love back to God. The reflective here, a lot of times we say the other way around. The famous line where it says, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. So literally it means Hashem is your shade. He protects you from the sun. But a deeper interpretation that Bratan Chassidus says, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. What's a shadow? A shadow does whatever you do. But more than that, whatever you do, on the one hand, the shadow does it too. That means the way I act, Hashem acts to me. That means Hashem reciprocates. If I'm kind to people, if I forgive people, Hashem forgives me. From understanding, meaning the way I function, that's how Hashem functions with me. If I am stingy in my money and I won't give help, Hashem says, you know what? I'll treat you the same way. There's a certain, by the way, it's a good time to say thank you to all the people that gave so much tzedakah in the last 48 hours of campaign, because people gave above and beyond. Hashem should reciprocate and give everyone above and beyond a tremendous, tremendous blessing. Just like the numbers were multiplied by 4, so Hashem should multiply by 1,000 the brachas back to each person. But the bottom line is, here we're saying the way we reflect Hashem. That means, it's like Hashem has his love to us and he extends his love to our mitzvahs. We feel the same way back to Hashem, and this is a created love. As if you remember, we said in the end of Tanya, Likutei Amarim, the different type of reflective love we have to Hashem. That was a big part of Likutei Amarim's last chapters. Now, so we said this whole meditation. His whole part, the beginning of this letter, the Alter Rebbe is saying, he's expressing this power. He wants to explain how important is this learning Torah. He wants to explain how important is the Gemara learning. He says every community should finish the Talmud. People should have a shir and learn Gemara. And then we'll see halacha too, Torah Shel Peh. So the question is, or the point is, how important is it? He says, so important is the core, our faith, our core, our loins, and that's what structures us and gives us the ability of this whole meditation. We're going to create intellectual love and fear. That means a relationship with Hashem that's based on seichel. Next page, tiviyim, or natural. What does this mean, seichel or natural? There's 2 ways that a Jew could love Hashem. One is that I talk to myself, and I talk to myself literally, but you think to yourself and you say, you know, Hashem provides my life and my energy and my this, Hashem, all the things that a person can think about, and creating it no different than someone else. You can create anger. You could think to yourself about a person, he embarrassed me in front of the whole shul, and he doesn't do this, and he doesn't invite me to his bar mitzvahs. And by the time you're done, you can work up with anger. You do the same thing if you want. It's a little harder because we're a little bit caught up with ourselves. But to work up a love for somebody, you can work up and think about a person, love, love, love. That's called seichel. You could develop a feeling of awe and fear to Hashem with seichel. Then you have a tivium. It's natural. You didn't have to do anything. Just wake it up. We have that love is like a father and a child, or a brother and a sister. A love is there. If it goes dormant sometimes, it's for foolish reasons. Your soul, by definition, by nature, has a love for Hashem. Your soul has an interest. Chapter 19 in Tanya, if you remember, the Alter Rebbe explains something so important to know in our lives. Our DNA, our nature is, we have, just like fire naturally goes up, our nature is that we naturally, in our regular, I'm not saying we, I mean our souls have a natural desire to be one with Hashem. Because my question was, as a growing up, I always heard this thing, that a person should know, if you don't do this, you cut off from Hashem. A person shouldn't do the sin, because if you do, you cut off from Hashem. And my always thought was, what if I don't care? What if I don't care if I'm cut off from Hashem? I don't know what Hashem is. I don't really care. I just want to, be happy. So when I saw chapter 19 in Tanya, it says, you're fooling yourself. It's like a kid who thinks, I don't even like my father anyway. I'm mad at my parents. You're being a fool. Deep down, you love your parents. And you're not going to be happy until you acknowledge that truth, that is your parents. And that's your true love. And if you're mad at them for some silly reason, get over it. Because you're going to be an unhappy person. You're going to have a trauma in your whole function until you can get past this and realize, I love my parents. As long as you're battling that truth, we have a natural love to Hashem in our soul. That's us. That's our identity. If we only could not block it up, not get in the way. And this is one of the primary themes of much of the Hasidic Maimarim, of the Rabbeim, is how to allow this love, this natural love, to come to the fore, and how to strengthen it and build it up. But the bottom line is, he says here, to awaken your dechelu recheme tiv, you could wake up your natural love. You didn't have to create it. Like the difference between digging a hole and uncovering a hole. We have in Gemara a whole discussion. If you go into the public domain and you dig a hole, you're responsible. What if someone else dug the hole and they put a cover on it and you uncovered it? You're also responsible. Because as long as you have the hole accessible, you made it accessible. The love is there. Just open up yourself and stop blocking it from flowing. And that's what he says here. You have either your intellectual or your natural love. Top of page 204. So what does happen with his love? His love creates a feeling of my heart is yearning for Hashem. My heart is crying out to Hashem. This is love. What happens is we find a very fascinating thing, the difference between love and fear. Fear, as we'll see in a moment, it's important to know this. The closer you are to Hashem, or to the thing you're afraid, let's focus on the regular things. The closer you are, the stronger the fear is. A lion, a bear. As long as you're blocked with a heavy steel wall or a glass wall in the zoo, you're not afraid of it. You're so far from it. Or if you hear that there's a lion escaped from the zoo in Montana, that doesn't concern me. They say the lion escaped from the zoo in Mequon, and it's Mequon Road. You pull your kids to the house. Why? Because the closer it is, and if it comes in front of your house, you're terrified. The closer it is, the more powerful is the fear. Love is just the opposite. The further you are, the more you love. A kid could be at home, and he doesn't even appreciate how lucky he is to be next to his siblings, next to a parent. Send the kid out of town, the mother's far away, God forbid something happens. Suddenly the yearning is there. What's the yearning? You weren't yearning yesterday. Why suddenly? Because you're far away, I yearn. Love. Distance creates more powerful love. And we'll see soon, awe is a much more impressive concept. I'll say it now because it's good to know this. Awe is really more impressive. Why is that? It comes out that who is the primary part of the story? Is the primary part of the story the person who is loving or afraid, or the person that you're afraid of or loving? When it's I'm far away, I'm missing the person. That means it's all about me. I miss the person. That means that the love is really all about me. I feel love. When awe is there, the primary power of the awe is the other person. Meaning it's not me. That person overwhelms me. And therefore, that's why when you get closer, it scares you more, or it overwhelms you more. Or you're standing in the shadow. People in the presence of a king won't speak. The king's out of the room, everyone will talk and laugh and joke. What happened? The king's here. We're in his presence. We act differently, meaning the king becomes primary. Awe is about the Hashem, and love is more about us. So we just said about the two concepts of intellect and nature, or as we'll see, intellect and faith. Because we say tivium, we mean a natural faith. What does it mean, teva? Natural. No. You have a natural faith in God. So that could about a love. Faith. People look at faith as something weaker. Weak people have to have faith. Strong people, we use our minds. We don't have to rely on faith. The truth is, when you're relying on intellect, it's all about self. When you're relying on faith, it's all about Hashem. Let's think for a second. What does it mean? When I understand an idea, that means my brain accepts this is the truth. If something could change my mind, if I came to a logical conclusion that there's a God, someone could prove me wrong. If I came to a logical conclusion that styrofoam is blocks the heat, I come to that conclusion. If somebody, and I don't have it in front of me, I'm talking about, but I come to that conclusion, knowing how styrofoam works. If now someone proves me wrong, you know what? You're right. I always thought styrofoam blocks heat, but maybe it doesn't. You explain me the components of the physical makeup and the chemistry, but if I have the cup in front of me, and I know the water here is boiling hot, and I put my hand here, it doesn't matter what I think. It's not about me. It's the fact. Faith is based on, I have now a belief. You can't change my mind. You can tell me anything you want that styrofoam doesn't technically block heat. I feel right now the truth, styrofoam blocks heat. It doesn't matter, which means faith is not about how I understand it, which my seichel, it's about the truth. I see it. Faith is my soul sees the truth, knows the truth, because it experienced it, and therefore it's not about me. That thing is the primary. So you have faith, really. Faith is a much stronger component in our existence than seichel. As a matter of fact, we know as Jews, while our relationship with Hashem is based on faith, Hashem wants us to also have seichel. That's Chabad. Also have seichel, but not that seichel. We don't believe in God because that makes sense. We believe in God because we have faith. Seichel tells us that makes sense to believe in God, as we'll also cover in a moment.
Faith can be also about bad things.
I'm sorry? Faith?
You're talking about what's happening now.
Yeah, because that's not faith. By the way, so let's go back. I'm glad you said that. Let's go back here to the page before. Okay, and this is very important. I'm glad you brought that up. I think I missed out this point when I taught it when we learned the first time. If you go to about 15 lines from the top, the last word in the line is vehem after a da. You see that?
Vehem.
Yeah. Actually, go one more line down. The word kamay. You see who kamay? The one line down. He says kamay shehu begashmi esaguf. You see that? Just like it's in a person's physical body, kachu bechinas ruchnius hanefesh halikis. So is true. We're talking about the core. Why is the core so important? The loins, as he calls it. I like the word core better. It sounds more corey. So why is the core so important? Because it tells you hamuna hamitis b'Hashem, the true faith. What happens is, if you don't have a healthy core, you're going to have faith that's not real. People have faith in many things. I believe in people get caught up with cults. People get caught up in all different mishagasim. People get caught up in the unfortunately, a religion that you believe in killing people. Or you could get in the faith that the most important thing is my income. It's the most important thing in the world. Not my kids, not my family, not my this. What your value system is, you have to have a core. That means your faith has to be not just strong, and that's what the ois does. The girdle, the thing that holds the core together. That is the ois. That is something that has to happen with. That has to make sure that the faith remains focused, because it's easy to have. Once you get into the world of faith, it's very easy to believe unhealthy things. And there are people, unfortunately, in the world that their faith is very corrupted, and we see it today in the world. Many obnoxious and ridiculous ways of thinking what's right and wrong, ethics and morally, etc. It's because they have a corrupted sort of faith. It's not a faith that comes from their soul. It's a faith that comes from what they want to believe. We'll get to that in actually the next section. The idea of sometimes the conclusion comes first, and then we come to the reasons for the conclusion, as we'll see in the next section. Let's see what time it is. Okay, another few minutes.
We're good.
Okay, sorry, one more line back. And the love comes in a form of a tremendous fire and a burning flame. And this is, by the way, there are different types of love. We spoke about Avraham, if you remember, when he takes his wife and puts her in a box, Sarah, and he says, Imrina achesiyat, say you're my sister. And it's a lot of discussion like what was going on here. It's a little bit interesting, but Chassidus right away takes the story at a whole different level. When you tell your wife, say you're my sister, what does that mean? My wife is my sister. I mean, we're not in these weird little villages where your wife could be a sister. So what does this mean? There's two types of love in the world. There's a love which is passionate. That passion love is only with a wife. A healthy person doesn't say, I'm passionately in love with my sister. I mean, that's concerning. But at the same time, a love of a wife and a husband could end. It's not guaranteed to last forever. It's not natural. It's not natural. It means sometimes a love, it's passionate, it's gone. Then you have a love of a sister. It's not passionate. It's a calm love. It's a wholesome, healthy love, but it doesn't go away. You give them the biggest fights in the world. End of the day, you love each other. A marriage, end of the day, you can hate each other forever. Even though there was times that they were deeply in love for the 10, 15 years they were married, or they weren't. But if they, even it could be that they were, it doesn't negate the fact that today I hate their guts and they're the worst thing that ever happened to me in my existence. Why? Because it wasn't a natural love; it was a created love. Created loves could not last, but they're much more passionate.
It's the same first lines of Basilegani. Basilegani achosikaya. Achoti, sister.
Yeah. Okay, but that's again, right. It's very similar, and you can say the same thing, but there was talking about my sister, my bride doesn't mean sister in the literal sense. It's more of a loving. But you're right. It's the same idea. Yeah. What Avraham was telling Sarah was, what he's telling us is, sometimes as a Jew we don't feel a passion to God. We don't feel it. I don't feel excited. So we say, at least have love. When you go down to Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim represented going down to the darkness, to the exile. When you're going through a difficult time in life, emotionally or spiritually, if you can't have the full passion of a wife with God, at least have the passion of a sister, have the love of a sister. My sister, okay, so we're getting along, we're fine, we're not passionate, and you'll see eventually we'll come back. That's the idea there. But the bottom line is here he's talking about that this love to Hashem could come to a point of passion to a fire. Now, this begins a very important process in a Jew called Ratzai V'Shuv. Probably heard this term many times. Ratzai V'Shuv means yearning and holding back. And I'll give just a simple metaphor. In the days where the Rebbe sent shluchim to, let's say, in the very beginning of the idea of shluchis, 1950s, the Rebbe sent a shliach to Casablanca, the Rebbe sent a shliach to Australia, the Rebbe sent shluchim to different places. Now, when the shliach's in a city where he is, and these are guys that grew up by the Rebbe, at least with the previous Rebbe who grew up with the Rebbe's guidance, they have a tremendous yearning to go back to the Rebbe and to come to 770, be by the Rebbe. They have a tremendous love. And it can be the same thing, by the way, a father who sends a child to a very important business, whatever project that takes a year to do in some city. My love is burning for to go back, that I'm yearning to go back, and I could almost leave. Then I think, 1 second, why was I here in the first place? Because my Rebbe told me to be here to do a job. That's called a shuv. 1 second. It's not about what I want. It's about something bigger than me. It's the purpose. And then you create the shuv to say, you know what? I'm not going back. I'm going to stay here. I might go back for a visit, but I'm not going to leave my place where I was sent to, because my purpose is to be here, which means I have here to go and set up a Chabad and feed the hungry or take care of the kids, make a school. Same thing with the neshama. The neshama comes down to this world. It yearns to go back to God. And then he says, 1 second, I got a job to do. I got to do tefillin. I got to do mezuzah. I got to do Shabbos candles. I got to do separate challah. I got so many mitzvahs to do. So it's the ratzei v'shuv, the love, and my love wants me to leave my existence, and then I have to restrain. That's what he says next. And this leads to what? The next step. So b'chinas ratzei. It starts off first in relationship with Hashem. Again, we're going through this whole psyche of what the faith does to your relationship with Hashem. B'chinas ratzei, and a tremendous yearning. B'chinas shuv, to go back. What's shuv? Lias pachad Hashem b'liboy. To have that fear of God. What is fear? Fear doesn't mean I'm scared. People think fear means scared. You're not scared of God. You're not scared. A person should be scared of their parents. If you are, you call child services. You should actually be in awe of your parents. You should be, when you see your parents, you should have a certain shame. Today, in America, it's lost. It's in most homes. But there was a time when the father walked into the room, or any level, when we stood up, and for a father and a mother, you wouldn't say the first name. You would never talk back to them. You never say no. Today, if the kid doesn't say no too loud, that's pretty good. You know, it's like, originally, a kid has to have, or in truth, altruistically, a kid should have an awe for their parents. Not sitting in their seat shouldn't be a rule. It should be a basic result of your respect. How can I sit in their seat? I'm not afraid, and therefore I don't sit in the seat. I know that's my father's place. No one sits there. That's his thing. I don't touch it. You know, it's his office. I don't go without his permission. It's not because you're told to. It's because it creates a relationship that someone should have also a professor. Who would think of sitting down, a professor talking about in their higher academy of learning, to sit down in the professor's seat for a joke? That's not respectful. This is his place. As we see, a Rebbe, no one would ever think of sitting in the Rebbe's seat. So that's a pacha. That comes of fear, but not a afraid fear, like a scared. It's awe. And that's the secondary thing, which reminds you know your place. I don't park in those parking spaces. I don't sit in this chair because that's reserved for him. That's, oops, I skipped a few words. That's pachad Hashem b'liboy. That's to hold you back from just love alone. To have a little bit of shame. Shame is not shame that I did something wrong. It's a very cool concept. There's a regular shame is I'm ashamed because I stole and I was caught. I'm ashamed because I ate something I shouldn't have when somebody do it, whatever. I'm ashamed of myself. Then there's a shame that comes, it's called a busha. It's a shyness. There's a certain shyness that's created when someone meets their role model, their mentor, someone who you look up to. There's a certain thing you act differently. I even see it, by the way, a very interesting thing. I have certain friends that since I'm a kid, they're close friends of mine, and since I'm a kid, I have a tremendous respect for them. They were always very knowledgeable, very at a certain maturity, even when we were 16, they were more mature. I noticed that I act different with them. I have a certain, sometimes a little wild nature, but with them, I always act a little bit more reserved. And somebody once commented to me, you act a little more reserved always when he's there. I said, you know what? I think it's a little bit of a respect awe thing, I have a respect for this person. There's a certain change in you that takes place with somebody who's greater, and it's called busha, not embarrassed, but a shyness or a shame. That's the idea of smile, pushing away, meaning there's the two experiences. There's the closeness that you feel in love, and the sort of distance you're recognizing. There's a distance, not that I'm pushed away, but there is a distance. There is a space here. Like it says by the giving of the Torah, it says Matan Torah, the people saw God. Suddenly God's presence was seen. It's like that wall between the you and the lion, the bear, suddenly disappeared. You take a step back. What are you taking a step back for? Because I realize the power that's in front of me here. I realize that I'm standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon. I'm standing before God. Automatically, it's like, whoa, the awareness made him take a step back because of the awe that was in front of them. These two expressions, when we said, now this is the last few things we're explaining, was to explain the right arm and the left arm. By what we said earlier in Tanya, that your davening has wings, right wing and left wing. The same thing is in your arms. In a person, they represent Ava and Yira, Chesed and Gevura. That means we have two ways that we interact with Hashem, with Chesed and with Gevura. These are based on the strength of our core. If our emunah is good, if we have the right faith in Hashem, how we love and how we have awe in Hashem, that balance is absolutely successful. The reality is, it's very important to know, we're all different temperaments. We all come from different ways of our souls. And therefore, some people are naturally more gifted in art. Some people are more naturally gifted in here. Some people are naturally more loving. Some are naturally more stricting. We call it naturally more strict. We call it Marashchera, somebody who has it's called a black bile. The bile coming off something in your system with a darker color, it represents Kabbalistically that you're a person that's much more severe, much more not smiley. And some people are more smiley people. So we have different natures, but the truth is, someone who uses their faith with their seichel, with the structure properly because of their core, they'll realize how to apply properly the love and the fear. The first part of the first letter of Iggeres Hakodesh. Anyway, I want to have a beautiful day. And amen. They should have a neshama should have an aliyah. Also, today is the yahrzeit of Linda Leshen's mother. She should have an aliyah. And also, today is your mother's yahrzeit today. Your grandmother. Adar. That's today.
My grandfather.
Shana Bas. I will do Bas Avram for now. Bas Avram.
No.
Take your time.
I'm going to support him.
What was his English name? What was his English name?
Huh?
What was his English name?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, don't worry.
I didn't know.
So you
Okay.
great-grandfather? Huh? So you're trying to remember the name of your great-grandfather?
Yeah, it's his grandmother's father.
Yeah. Eliyahu.
Shana Basilio.
Yeah.
There we go. L'chaim. And finally, today Shmuel Jadovsky is having a very big surgery on his Stuart Jadovsky, one of the guys in our shul. So I should bless him to have a successful surgery and should be healthy afterwards, have a quick recovery. And all of us and our families for coming to this share today, for adding on in our schedule. Hashem should give each of you, and especially to you, Emily, tremendous nachas and blessings in your life. Good to see you.
Amen. My father.
Chaye ben Henya. Hashem should give him a miraculous amount of blessings for good health.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us from the virtual world. All right. We'll see you. Have a great day.
You too. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Your daughter's.